Does everybody know what time it is?
Home and podcast time!
That's right, a company with loose familial ties to Binford Tools is proud to present a home improvement podcast. My name is Adam, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jordan. Jordan, how you doing, man?
In a word, I feel jolly, after watching this previous episode a couple times. I'm feeling even though it's 100 degrees outside in Florida right now, I'm feeling a little bit in the Christmas spirit. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be recording this episode of Ho Ho Homan Podcast.
Oh, man.
If you catch my drift.
I got it. Yeah. And mostly you're relieved that now your phone works, too, so you can really focus on the podcast.
Yeah, crisis averted. My phone just, it just was resetting, and it was just stuck on the screen of the company that makes it. And since we don't receive kickbacks from that company, I won't dignify them by reading their name on the air. But yeah, crisis averted. All is well. I can go about my life as I would have before and after. So, yes, we are all excited to talk about this week's episode. Isn't that right, Jordan?
Absolutely. We've got Yule Better Watch Out coming up, but first we got to talk a little bit about some message board material that you found in the recent weeks.
Yeah, we have to.
We don't have a choice, really.
No, we have to.
The audience demands it, and we give them what they want.
And demand is the word I would use. So yeah, there's not as I've said before, there's not a tremendous home improvement presence online, but yeah, on the IMDb message boards, you see there's been a fair amount of activity of late, and people are bringing up a lot of different things on there, and there's games people play where they mix and match titles, and they ask people to sort of solve them, to put them in the correct order, which is, not something I'm interested in doing, but others were.
Surprised that there is enough people out there that want to take part in that.
Yeah, well, I didn't say there were.
Okay.
There's a lot of complaints about the lack of home improvement on cable right now. It used to be on, what did it
TBS,
used to be on?
I think?
It used to be on TBS, that's right, but now and this is pretty wild, and I guess we've never talked about this, or maybe we have, but it's only on the Hallmark channel on Fridays at like 8 p.m.
Yeah, my mom frequently mentions to me that it's on Hallmark if I want to catch it.
Yeah.
But I don't...
That's strange. I mean, it's really strange that a show that, was as like popular and drew the ratings of a home improvement is only on the Hallmark channel, which I only know of from like showing Christmas movies. It's insane that it's only showing an hour a week on the Hallmark channel. You would think even like an ABC Family or you
mean Freeform.
Yeah, I don't mean that, but I guess that is what it's called now. But yeah, people are upset about that. It can only be found just an hour a week, so that's disappointing. And I know people say it used to be on Netflix, but it's not now. And we of course wish that it still was. There's talk of the architecture of the house. People are wondering how many staircases there are. It was eventually solved that there is just the one staircase going upstairs, but there was a good back and forth on that.
Is there not a staircase going downstairs?
The speculation seems to think that the only staircase there is the one that we see them going up to the left of like the main door.
But we've seen them go downstairs down a staircase.
Oh, I think that it's related to going like upstairs, staircases upstairs. Someone thought that there was a staircase up and then a staircase going down.
Okay.
I'm just telling you what I'm seeing on here. There is also a lot of stuff about the Randy cancer scare episode, which we'll see moving forward. But, as you might expect with a message board, a lot of it is about the feminism that people believe is steeped in the show and the Tim and Jill dynamic. And I just wanted to read this one because it's the most recent message. Well, no, it's the second most recent message. So it's August 10th of 2016. And this is from a user called dhmason6155, and this is positing what I would call radical stance that Home Improvement is a show for feminists, and it is a feminist-driven show. So it's called, this thread is called, "The Feminist Thought Police Got Their Hooks into This Show, ... And Jill was their commissar. This was meant to be a show for men, but somehow women's issues and feminist plot elements kept showing up. There are lots of posts on this board about what a domineering B-word Jill was towards Tim. Blame liberal Hollywood. If you want another textbook example, watch the last season of Entourage, a show aimed at the 18 to 25-year-old male demographic. But just like a mole or covert op, Ali Musica managed to get into a highly placed influential position on the writing staff and gutted it from the inside. Suddenly, the entire point of view became female. This show went down in flames when it probably could have gone on for at least one more season."
Wow. I can't say that I've ever thought that about this show. Really.
Yeah, when are there ever, like, women's issues and feminist plot elements? Like, does he mean, like, Jill gets a job? Or what? I like comparing the show to Entourage to, like, I don't think there could possibly be
two different shows
less alike.
Yeah.
Oh man. And the Home Improvement, like him saying the show went downhill. The Home Improvement finale is like one of the most watched television shows of all time. So yeah, it's a very controversial opinion, and I got to say, DH Mason 6155. You're on your own.
Yeah, we certainly don't subscribe to that theory, but I don't know. I'd like to hear some of the interactions on that message board. You said it was recent, so there's probably nothing there yet.
There's none.
Yeah.
No, there's none. But I think people are ignoring it because it's so nonsensical. Because there's one after that does have like.
What are the chances that DH? What was it? DH Mason? Is that was his name?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That he's trolling everyone.
Limited, because I don't think so.
Throwing words like commissar out there.
Commissar. The one there was one posted very recently that says Randy missing, and it has like 8 responses, and it's just someone wondering why Randy left. Which we know from last week's episode is because he wanted to pursue academia. Right. So Home Improvement message boards, generally good interactions. That is, unless you post about your home improvement podcast and no one responds.
That's happened a few times, huh?
And I'm speaking from personal experience.
I may have done similar things on Reddit, but maybe we're playing the long game here. But I guess we can cue those grunts.
It's all saved to me. Oh no!
Now it's time for Bits of Wisdom. Alright, so this week's Bit of Wisdom comes from Chapter 8 of the Tim Allen text Don't Stand Too Close to a Naked Man, entitled Wives Are Women Too. Here's your Bit of Wisdom. Some wise guy with a small bank account once said that if you put a penny in a jar every time you make love the first year you're together, and take one out every time after that, no matter how much sex you have in subsequent years, you'll never empty the jar. Maybe so. That is one reason why I use silver dollars. And when I took them out of the jar, I put them in another jar. I've got my golden years to think of. This has been your Bit of Wisdom.
I don't know how much we want to dwell on
that. I think we should just get in the episode.
But really, let's stop horsing around. Let's get into episode 12 here.
Yes, indeed we should. In episode 12 is Yule Better Watch Out, which we assume to be a Christmas episode.
And are right, I think.
And are right. And this episode came out on December 17th, 1991, and it is a Billy Ryback joint. I did some research on our old pal Bill Ryback, and he also wrote for The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Nice.
So
keeping it in the Disney family.
The more you know. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Jordan, should we get into this one?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take on the plot synopsis that we got here from Tony DePola, as always. It says, on Tool Time, Tim gives a Yuletime tip: never plug in a frayed wire, and grunts jingle bells. He also demonstrates his great invention, a rotating Christmas tree, with the usual results. At home, Tim has decided to beat Doc Johnson in the neighborhood Christmas decoration contest. The competition soon gets out of control. Jill is upset that Randy did not get the part of Joseph, but rather of the innkeeper in the school Christmas pageant, and decides to make Randy stand out by making him an outstanding costume. Mark learns a shocking secret from his brothers. There is no Santa Claus. Or is there? Intriguing.
That is
intriguing.
That is a question that is that is posed at the end of this episode, and I can just tell you right now, it does not answer.
It is very confusing, and we'll get to that.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the episode here. So we start with Tim on the Tool Time set in kind of a cool overhead shot. I thought it's a crane shot looking down on him. He's sitting there. And Lisa comes out, and they are talking about like frayed wire, and there's a frayed wire, a frayed joke, and that's all fine and well. But Al's wearing an elf hat, and that
it's
really
fantastic.
That's really great. And I was just waiting for them to make a joke about Al being an elf. Didn't come. If I was the writer on the show, that's something I would have done. But yeah, Tim he's got a tree. We should say the studio is very festive. Tim has got a tree set up in the studio, and he has what I think is actually a pretty good idea.
I thought that myself. I didn't realize that this was needed until Tim brought it up.
Right, and what is it that is needed, Jordan?
He says that basically, we spend all this time decorating Christmas trees, but we only see, usually they're in the corner or against the wall, and so you don't really see the whole tree, all the effort that you put in. And so he uses I think he said a turntable from his college days.
Yes, he did.
So we get a little bit more of his background as a DJ at college, and so he installs it to make the Christmas tree spin. And before he actually turns it on, Al is concerned, and I would say rightly so, that he didn't do it correctly. But he turns on the switch, and the tree starts out perfectly okay, like it's working properly, but quickly that situation changes and it starts sparking and it starts spinning out of control. And I thought there was an interesting transition here as they moved into like the next scene. As the tree like spun, like there was a 3D effect where like an ornament kind of popped into the screen. Right. Yeah.
As far as their like graphic sort of transitions go, this one was a better one. But I kind of hoped I had a fleeting moment where I thought that Tim's little experiment here was going to work, and I was thinking that was going to be pretty good, because I think that's what we're supposed to think. Al is kind of congratulating Tim and saying nice work or whatever. And I wish it would have worked, because to have a tree go around in circles would have been nice. You get full coverage on the tree, so it would have been really nice for Tim.
It would have been a nice Christmas gift for Tim as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to do something right for once in that regard. So,
yeah.
But it doesn't happen, and so we move on to the next scene, and we're back at the Taylor home. Mark is working on a super long Christmas list, at least 10 feet long, and shows his mother what work he's gotten done here. And Jill tries to whittle it down immediately. She gets Mark to, and like Mark erases the sad. I thought this was kind of sad. The first thing that he erases is his Cocker Spaniel that he wanted, named Floppy. So we will never see Floppy now. But we do realize that he really wants a remote-controlled dinosaur the most, just like every young child out in the 90s. That's all they want, remote-control cars and planes and dinosaurs.
Yeah, I know. I always wanted a remote-control dinosaur.
And did you ever get one?
No, I got the thing I really wanted was that rad robot. Do you remember that? It's like RAD, rad robot.
No, not really.
And my parents still kind of make fun of me because, I don't know, in the commercials, they made it seem like this robot like could do a lot more. And I was like telling my dad how the robot was going to like do my chores and stuff and like bring me like drinks and stuff, because it had a like flat table on it. And I was thinking that, I would just have the robot like do.
You just wanted the robot servant, that's all.
Yeah, basically. And then I got it. I ended up getting the rad robot, which I wish, looking back, my parents would not have spent money on that. I ended up getting it, and it was really disappointing because all it did was basically need to be charged and slowly and noisily kind of meander around the living room. It never brought me my sodas.
You tried though. You tried your hardest.
Yeah. I mean, it was
never listened.
In theory, I want to look back at the commercials. In theory, it was really just a great product. But like most children's toys, the commercials and what you actually receive are quite a bit different. But we move on, and so Mark is not going to get the Cocker Spaniel. He's got a long list. he eventually leaves the room. Tim comes in, and he's wearing really a fantastic sweater. And he's got two really good sweaters in this episode. And this is the first one. And they begin, through exposition, they begin to talk about Tim setting up his Christmas lights. And Jill notes a name, Doc Johnson. And I think before we get into any real explanation on this, we should just go ahead and play that clip.
Tim, there's like 12 boxes of decorations. How many are you going to bring up?
One more out of the basement.
And that's it?
One more out of the basement and a couple out of my car.
How many is a couple?
10.
I know why you're doing this.
I have the Christmas spirit.
You just can't stand that Doc Johnson always wins that Christmas decoration contest.
You always think I'm competing with Doc Johnson.
Oh, it doesn't bother you that he's added those extra 3 giant candles on his roof?
There's 4 of them, and there's a little dancing elf, but that doesn't bother me.
Well, just don't set fire to the roof like you did last year.
I didn't set fire. It was an electrical short.
Well, I just don't want to have to drive you to the emergency room again.
Wait a minute. Except for last year, when was the last time you drove me to the emergency room?
The 80s?
You mess up one decade, and you'll never let me forget it.
Yeah, well, why don't you just try taking a year off and not compete with Dr. Johnson?
Some thanks I get for trying to spread a little Christmas cheer.
You're spreading around something, but it ain't Christmas cheer.
Yeah, so Doc Johnson is he's a neighbor, and we find out later that he's a 76-year-old retired proctologist, which puts an interesting spin on the competition. But Doc Johnson and Tim, they kind of have a competition to see whose lights or whose display is better. Last year, Tim set fire to the roof. And it seems as though Doc Johnson typically gets the better of Tim, but this year, Tim wants to put his best foot forward, and that's essentially it. This is something that goes on for several seasons. We've noted, maybe throughout the whole series, but this is the first we're sort of seeing of this, or rather hearing of this Doc Johnson character. We move on, and Brad and Randy enter, and we find out that they are trying out for a Christmas play, but neither of them are especially pleased with the roles they've received.
Oh, no. Brad is a shepherd again, and he has no lines. During his tryout, Randy mentions that instead of saying frankincense, he said Frankenstein, which really lost him the tryout as a wise man. And Randy is, I don't know if he was this last year or not, but he is an innkeeper. Yeah. But he does have one line. And they all make note of it, that there is no room at the end. So.
Yeah, that was funny. I like that, yeah. And I like later on when he delivers that line, just the lack of enthusiasm he has for it at first. Just, there's no room at the end.
Absolutely.
This reminded me of my own experiences with, and I don't, maybe we have talked about our experiences in acting? I believe we have, haven't we?
I think we maybe briefly had.
Noted it, but as far as like plays go, when I was young, I remember in 4th grade there was a Christmas play that revolved around a character named Elphys, and I tried out for Elphys. I always tried out for the lead in the Christmas plays, and I never got them. I just the false bravado and confidence I had as a 10-year-old was just unparalleled. But much like them, much like Randy, I and Brad, I tried out for the lead and was always given sort of a menial role. I think I played like Elf 5 or something. This spoke to me. You ever find yourself in that kind of situation, or you've sort of established yourself as an introvert? So I don't know. If
it's not.
That's something
I think
done.
I mentioned this earlier in one of our first episodes. Something about the first grade play I was not there for. 2nd grade play, the teacher thought it would be great to cast me in the lead role as Santa. So I got to play Santa, kind of as we'll see later.
Do you remember any of your lines?
No, I don't remember. I mean, it was a very traumatizing experience for me, I think. But I do remember that I had a pillow under my red sweater to make me look a little bit bigger than I was as a 2nd grader, to really fill out the Santa.
Going for that realism,
Yeah, they wanted the crowd to think I was Santa, a very short, very high-pitched Santa.
Short stout Santa.
I don't remember much about it besides trying to get out of it, saying I had stage fright over and over to my parents, and they did not fall for it.
They weren't buying it.
They weren't buying it. It didn't work out well. Maybe there is a tape somewhere. Maybe I can get my hands on it.
I'd love it, and I think our listenership would love it. Now, was your mother sort of like Jill is in this episode, where she seems to sort of get a little bit too into it and make it sort of a competition thing? Because Jill is upset when she finds out that George Lonigan has received the lead role for reasons best described as nepotism. I think his dad built the set, so George Lonigan, who can't even remember the words to Happy Birthday, is in the lead.
And he is
Jill's
going
bothered.
to be playing Joseph. Yeah, Jill is bothered. I don't think my mom was that into it. I think she was excited for me to get involved. Mm-hmm. I think any parent would just be excited to have their kid have such a big play.
A big part.
In a blockbuster play like the second grade play, whatever it was.
That was one of the big moments of your life.
Sure, it's so big that I don't even really remember it. Besides,
you don't remember the lines or the dialogue or anything?
Nope, nothing.
I've been noticing they do a good job with like giving children names on this show. You got George Lonigan, you got Jason Loomis, Jennifer Sadarsky, Bob and Stinky. I mean, I could go on forever, baby. They do a good job with that. It's a nice little detail.
I'd really like to know Bob and Stinky's last names because presumably it would fit them perfectly.
Yeah. All right, you want to pick it up?
I don't even know where we're at anymore at this point. But
the sad reveal to Mark via Brad and Randy.
Oh yeah, so mom and dad leave the scene here, and Brad quickly judges Mark's giant Christmas list. He says, "Are you going to be?" I don't know if he says doofus or something his whole life, but Brad and Randy end up breaking the news that there is no Santa Claus. And Mark is upset and does the only thing which seems right and calls them poopy heads at this point. I think something we all can agree with.
Right.
And Randy takes it a step further, as he likes to do. He says that there used to be a Santa, but he died 6 years ago in an accident where Blitzen fell on him. So quite the demise for Santa, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's pretty mean, you know? It seemed unnecessary. And,
again, a step too far.
Yeah, a step too far. And as they leave the room, they're just rattling off expressions related to
dead
death.
as a doornail, 6 feet under.
The can, 6 feet under. And it's not realistic because Brad doesn't. I mean, but based on what we've seen, Brad or Randy are not intelligent enough to come up with all of these at the drop of a hat. So it was, they just are like rattling off these, 100-year-old turns of phrase, which was
either that or they have very morbid senses of humor that we haven't quite seen so far.
It's possible, but
the end of the scene. Before we end the scene, it's kind of a very weird end to the scene that we'll see kind of later in the episode as well. Another one similar where like Mark is just staring at this figurine Santa and it just falls over. So I'm not sure what
doing scenes where Mark is just staring at the camera.
I don't know what implication that says. Is there like a ghost that was left over from Halloween that knocked over the Santa? I just don't know. But that's kind of how the scene ends.
I think it's Rondell Kittleman just pranking the whole family.
He's back at it.
Yeah.
When he left that house, he planted several things to torment the Taylor family.
That's a callback to our episode Satellite and a Hot Tim's Roof. Check it out if you haven't already done so. All right. So later on, Jill is back later that day, and she's purchased some costume supplies because apparently she's in charge of coming up with their costumes. And this is pretty funny. I don't know where she purchased these items. You would think like a Joann Fabrics or Hobby Lobby or whatever the Metropolitan Detroit version of those places are. But she's got like I don't know how to describe it even, but Randy looks like a sultan.
He does. He looks like he's right out of Aladdin.
Yeah, he's wearing like a big, I don't even know what you call that. It's like a pillowy looking thing, and I don't mean to be like culturally insensitive. I'm just ignorant. I don't know what that's called.
He's got lots. He's like wrapped in like a gold cloth, and I don't know what that would be called, like a sultan's hat, or
But Tim walks in and he refers to him as Alibaba, and Randy puts on the costume, and it's reasonably funny. And this is where Jill asks him to deliver that line, and he just kind of mutters, there's no room at the end. But then
he goes for broke. Really.
Yeah, and then he puts a little pizzazz on it, and he really kind of like when he told the his and hers joke in the last episode. He really goes for it, and it's a funny scene. This is like a nice little little aside like plot mechanism, Randy's outfit and just the play in general. It's pretty funny. So
yeah. So we move outside after that scene, and we get our first view of Wilson here, and Tim is asking for a diesel generator, but Wilson kind of betrays Tim at this point. He gave the generator to Doc, Doc Johnson. So we also find out that Wilson doesn't decorate his house, but he decorates within. So he's got, a wreath in his heart and other various metaphors that don't quite make a whole ton of sense. But we get the idea that Wilson doesn't, go outside, go in public, or decorate his house. Those are two things that we're quickly learning.
Yeah, Wilson's he's more than just a little strange. He's a full on weirdo. I'm gonna say, and an endearing weirdo. And the fake Wilson follows us on Twitter, and I tweet at him sometimes. And if he hears this, I'm sorry, but it's more and more we learn he's going from someone that's just kind of unique and quirky to just sort of a guy that is going to end up like on a most wanted list, I fear.
Mm-hmm. But he is roasting chestnuts on an open fire, so that's
literally.
Can
I say something about Brad coming out?
Please.
Do you know what I'm going to say?
No, I want to hear it though.
He delivers his line just as he delivers the Lions just recovered a fumble. He comes out and he goes, Doc Johnson put up 2 huge lights.
He's got one mode. It's either like talking normally or yelling excessively.
All or nothing, Brad, baby.
Mm-hmm. So we learned that Doc Johnson has upped the ante, and Tim immediately goes up to the roof to test his new, I guess, rotating Santa. So he's using the same turntable as that he used on Tool Time. It didn't have much success then, and it won't have much success now. But he sets it up, and it seems to be working at first. And he decides to come in after that test. He slips and falls, and a hammer freezes to his tongue. Brad is up there watching from the window, and lets him know that he, has this hammer stuck to his face if he didn't already know.
Can I just say that what Tim has on the roof is relatively unimpressive.
Shoddy.
He's not gonna best Doc Johnson with what he's got right now. It's just it's like a wooden Santa that's gonna rotate. I mean, I don't know what Doc Johnson's got over on his roof, but that's not very impressive.
We're only seeing a small part of the roof, so maybe he's got more where that came from.
Well, I saw, I didn't really care for.
So if you were judging this contest, Doc Johnson in the landslide.
Definitely, yeah. He falls. He gets the hammer stuck to his tongue, and
then Santa beats him up. Really,
Santa beats him. Just keeps getting hit. It's not my favorite scene this episode. I'll say that much.
No, and so we'll move on from it. What do you say?
Let's just move on.
So inside, we're dealing with the immediate ramifications of Tim getting this hammer stuck to his face, and I thought this was a little strange. Firefighters had to come and to get the hammer off. I don't know why.
I didn't really think about that. Yeah, why were they firefighters?
Why were firefighters there? That seems a bit excessive. Maybe he would go to an urgent care. Maybe he would just I don't know.
Yeah, but nobody wants to watch a TV show about someone waiting at an urgent care. That's awful.
Just imagine all the people that could be in that urgent care waiting room.
Oh, you're right. He could run into some real personalities.
Mm-hmm. So the firefighters, we learned they like the show. They, just like everyone else, wonder why wasn't Al here to help. They love that guy, and so does everyone else. And Tim's a little miffed at this, like he usually is.
And there's the implication that this happens every year as
well.
Like these guys, these two firefighters come every year, apparently.
Hey, they come for the cookies, because at the end, Jill gives them some cookies.
Yeah.
And as they leave, we see that there is a huge crowd outside waiting to see what happens, and they have to disperse the crowd.
Weird. And I'll talk about that in a second, but first I want to talk about these firefighters.
Sure.
So the younger of the two firefighters, the one that mentions that he really likes Al, and he is the one handed the cookies, that's David Warshawski, and he has 74 credits to his name, and he's a tremendously accomplished actor. He's appeared in films such as Now You See Me 1, and the sequel to that, the Taken franchise, Captain Phillips, And he's appeared in Lincoln as well as a few of the Paul Thomas Anderson films, There Will Be Blood and The Master. So he's, of the actors we've seen, he's probably in the most sort of prestigious films of late. You said that you noted, what was it?
Yeah, also he was in a Friends episode in which he also played a fireman. So he really wears that hat well.
Yeah, but that's impressive, don't get me wrong, but didn't you note that he'd been in 4 Academy Award nominated films?
He was in 4 nominated Best Picture Oscar films, so you mentioned a couple of them. There Will Be Blood, Lincoln, Captain Phillips, and Born on the 4th of July.
Okay.
Pretty impressive for David.
Yeah, good rep sheet. And then the older gentleman is played by Gary Bayer. He has 63 credits to his name. He hasn't appeared in anything since 2008 when he was in an episode of Cold Case. He was also in Bubble, Toil, and Trouble as just like an uncredited workman. So a few episodes ago, he was in an episode. He appeared in something called Mr. and Mrs. C and Psycho 3, the 3rd installment of the Psycho franchise, which I had seen, but I was young. But so yeah, these are 2 reasonably. It's an interesting scene, or reasonably funny. I've been listening to episodes, and I think if there were a drinking game, that people should drink every time I say something's reasonably funny, and every time you mispronounce a fairly easy to say word.
Sure, like
ridiculous,
ridiculous,
or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was. It was something along those lines.
Mailbag.
Yeah, every time I say reasonably funny every episode. But this scene is reasonably funny, and these are 2 pretty good guest performances. So
you just said it again.
I know, not going to apologize for it. That's just kind of my thing. It's my shit.
All right, so yeah, they get some cookies on the way up. They disperse the crowd.
Yeah, we got to talk about that though. Like that's what is that? What is that? Is it
like, why is there a crowd? It seems like word travels fast in this Detroit suburb, but also it seems like there's
is it paparazzi?
Yeah, there's like cameras flashing. There's like reporters with tape recorders and stuff. So
they were going for a laugh, but
I guess so.
It just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't really have much else to say about it. But Jill makes Tim promise to stop this silly competition with Doc, and there's only a couple hours left until the judges come out and view the homes. So he says there's nothing much he could do at this point, anyways. But after she leaves, Tim calls the electric company, and he pulls what I would call a very shoddy move here, and calls the power company impersonating Doc, telling them to shut off the power in precisely 2 hours because they're going out for dinner.
Yeah, no, I've never, even if that were to work, like, is that something people do? Do they call their power company and say, hey, can you guys turn, I'm going to dinner. Can you
going
turn
for
off
a quick dinner, I want to save
I don't want to
this
save
hour
on
of
electricity
energy.
or something.
It doesn't seem too reasonable, unless maybe electricity was a lot more expensive in the 90s and I don't remember it. But Eddie, the operator at the electric company, he recognizes Tim's voice, and apparently he tried this last year. So,
Tim.
And we also, again, word travels fast because Ed has heard about Tim's incident with the firefighters in his tongue. So,
right. I don't know if the episode necessarily needed that. I think this is a fine episode. I don't know I think that they get a little carried away with some of the details here, such as the paparazzi waiting outside of the place, or Tim trying to fake this
effort.
Haul.
Yeah,
it's a little bit silly, but
Jill overhears all this, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Jill overhears all this, gives him a hard time, saying that's not really in the Christmas spirit, and then Tim fires back that her fervor over the costumes and trying to up the ante for her kids in that regard is not also in the Christmas spirit. So.
And he's right. She's it manifests in a different way, but it's more or less the same
they're both
thing.
in the wrong here in that regard. But
definitely.
Mark comes down and kind of lets them know that Brad and Randy told him about Santa, and Jill and Tim try to keep up Santa's story. He's old, but he's not dead. He sat on Santa's lap at the mall, and then Mark questions that, and we see Mark getting a little bit more suspicious and cynical, and Jill says eventually that these Santas are assistants like Al and all this kind of stuff. So,
and then he says, what does he say, so they do all the work or something?
Yeah, they do all the work, and of course Tim takes offense to that.
This is strange, though, in this kind of continues on, but they seem to really be wrestling with whether or not they're doing the right thing.
Right.
Of course they're doing the right thing. Mark is, what, 5? I mean, 5 or 6?
He's young, and...
Like, they act like there's some big moral decision to be made, or like, you know, what, like they're lying to him or something, but it's not. I don't know. I don't know why that they're even considering that. I mean, it's just something that people do. It's certainly the right thing to do, is to, you know, hold on to that for as long as you can. It's not as if they're lying about something like a member of their family or,
yeah,
you know.
and I don't, like, did they have, like, adverse reactions from Brad and Randy that made them think, like, oh, maybe we shouldn't lie to Mark like we did to them? Because they obviously did this for the other kids, and, like, what would make them think that this is a terrible thing to do? But Mark really hammers it home at the end. He's reassured, and he says, you and Dad wouldn't lie to me. And that's, like you said, that's really what makes Tim have second thoughts there.
Yeah, but... And I guess that line is purposely put in there to sort of make them have second thoughts, but I don't know. It's not. They're not lying. It's not so black and white. Like, it's not just a lie or the truth. You know, I think they're doing the right thing. And yeah, I don't know. I watched this episode. Like I told you, I watched this episode like last Christmas when I was in London because I couldn't find anything to watch, so I just found it on YouTube and watched it. And I remember thinking the same thing then. It's not necessarily like, it doesn't need to be a lie versus the truth. I don't know why they're considering it that way. I think that it's just, you know, them trying to keep a little boy from, you know, seeing. They're just trying to give him hope. You know, I don't. It confused me, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know that a lot of kids are scarred by the Santa thing, but if you are, we'd certainly love to hear about it. So, but we'll go on to the next scene here, and we're back outside with Wilson for the second time this episode. And I guess before we talk about it too much, we should go ahead and play a clip of what happens here.
Can I ask you something?
Jingle my bell, neighbor.
Mark is starting to ask us questions about Santa Claus. Well, should we tell him that he doesn't exist?
Well, who says he doesn't exist, Tim? I believe it was Hamlet who put it best when he said, there are more things in heaven and earth, good neighbor, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
But Brad and Randy already said he was dead.
Technically, that's true. He died in the year 342.
Well, then who's at the mall?
No, Tim, I'm talking about the original Santa Claus. Saint Nicholas, the bishop of Myra in Asia Minor, he used to go around to the houses of the poor people on his donkey with bags of gold and drop them down the chimney.
Why would he drop donkeys down the chimney?
I'm talking about the bags of gold, Tim.
Well, hopefully you can put a remote-controlled dinosaur down my chimney for Mark, because the stores are sold out of.
Well, maybe Santa Claus might bring it to him.
I thought you said Santa was dead.
Ah, but Tim, the spirit of Santa lives on. It lives in all of us. Well, I must get back to my chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Now that reminds me of a song. On the first day of Christmas, my tree was a juniper tree. On the second day of Christmas.
All right, so we see here in this scene that Tim, quickly after Jill left, is going to do some more decorating. And then Tim chats about this dilemma, the Santa dilemma, I'll call it, with Wilson. And Wilson kind of makes a couple of points saying that who says that, you know, basically the spirit of St. Nicholas doesn't exist. They talk a little bit about the real history of St. Nicholas and who he was and what he did as far as delivering to needy families back hundreds of years ago. And Tim, you know, kind of shares his toughest dilemma at the moment, which is, you know, Mark wants this dinosaur, this remote-controlled dinosaur, but they seem to be all out of them at the store.
Right.
But Wilson ends kind of on the ominous note that maybe Santa will come after all, and the spirit of Santa lives on in all of us. So it's, you know, we're not exactly sure what Wilson means by all of this, but we'll see in a couple of scenes what that means. So.
Right, he's got something up his sleeve. It's better than the last couple,
Wilson,
fence installments we've had. It's still, I don't understand why Tim's wrestling with this so much, but I guess I have to let it go. It's fine, yeah, it's nice, and when we see what happens later on, it does kind of make sense in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I think it was, like, you know, we mentioned last episode that scene with Wilson doesn't really drive the plot at all and is completely unnecessary, and this one's a little bit nicer because we kind of see I don't know. It seems more essential to the plot. Wilson learning about this need for a dinosaur, and even though we learned that. Well, I guess we'll talk about it in a couple scenes before I get to that. But we'll go back inside into the next scene, and Jill and the boys are home after the latest pageant rehearsal, and it went poorly, to say the least. Randy has been relegated now to a sheep instead of the innkeeper after going off script. Apparently, he asked for some ID when Mary and Joseph were asking if there was room at the end.
Yeah, he wanted an ID, and he was trying to charge them or something, which is which is pretty funny. Yeah, it's and it didn't go much better for Brad either. But yeah, it's that was a nice detail. I like that. But Mark is he's there as well, and he's still concerned about
he's got questions.
Yeah, just the Santa in the logistically he's just confused about Santa.
Yeah, how does Santa get all of those gifts in one bag? And their response is that he folds them.
Yeah, he folds them, which is, I guess, clever enough. And then, just as they're about to, I think, reveal the truth.
They're
about
right on their way.
Which they give up very easily on their whole facade. Two questions from Mark over the course of a day, and they're ready to throw in the towel. Santa shows up, and I think we better play our final clip here.
I'll get it.
You see, it's the spirit of Santa Claus that really matters. Whether he exists or...
Merry Christmas!
Wilson, what are you doing here?
The name is Santa. Hello there, Mark.
Are you the real Santa?
The one and only.
Mom, that's Wilson.
Santa, would you like some hot chocolate?
No. Mrs. Claus told me to cut back.
Well, it still looks like you're packing it in there. Maybe swallowed a few too many yams there at Thanksgiving.
This is so bogus.
Well, even though it's not quite Christmas yet, I thought my little buddy Mark needed an extra helping of Christmas spirit.
Should I go get my list?
No, there's no need to, Mark. In your heart. What I think you really want is a remote-controlled dinosaur.
Great! It's not even folded. Thank you, Santa.
Oh, yes. And Mark, don't forget this.
What's this?
Well, unlike the toy companies, with Santa, batteries are included.
Anything for us, Santa?
Well, even though you boys no longer believe in me, Santa brought you a gift anyway. Brad, I've got you a rubber band. And Randy, here's a button.
Well, Santa, what'd you bring us?
Well, with the hustle and bustle of Christmas, sometimes we get involved in decorating and pageants, and we often forget that the true meaning of Christmas is about coming together and sharing. And that's why I brought you this little reminder.
Mistletoe.
That's right, Jill. Let's see if it works.
Thank you, Santa.
Don't look at me, man.
Merry Christmas!
Thank you, Santa.
Bye, Santa.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night!
Bye, Santa! Thank you!
I'll tell you, Jill, sometimes that Wilson is one fine neighbor, huh?
You mean that, Wilson?
Hi-ho, neighbor!
Huh?
So a man dressed as Santa Claus enters. That is, to the audience, and Jill and Tim and Mark or rather Jill and Tim and Brad and Randy. Obviously Wilson. It sounds like Wilson. It looks like Wilson. It is Wilson. And he comes in full Santa regalia. He's got his bag, and he talks directly to Mark, and he talks about Christmas cheer and on and so forth. And he gives him that remote controlled dinosaur. And Brad and Randy are gifted with a button, and what's the other thing?
A rubber band.
And a rubber band, because they don't necessarily believe. Mark is full of wonder, and he's very excited, and it's all very, very nice. And he pulls out mistletoe, and he holds it over Jill, and he gives her a kiss, and then he holds it over Tim, and Tim is less interested in the kiss. And yeah, it's a nice scene. It instills some hope in Mark, and it forced Tim and Jill to continue the charade for at least another year. But and we've got two questions here. The first one is very much a minor question, and my question is, why does that dinosaur look like Godzilla and not a dinosaur? But the second question, which is more important, is as Santa leaves, Wilson is somehow outside at the same time, and we get a picture of Mark like looking out the front door, and we hear sleigh bells. So it's implied that there is a Santa flying away on his sleigh, but also Wilson outside. Because Tim says the way that Wilson's a great neighbor, which he says right in front of Mark, which is dumb. And then Jill says, that Wilson, and then they look over the fence, and it's like supposed to be like, oh, he was there the whole time. And then there's that close-up of Mark looking up at the sky again with wonder. And it's just basically them trying to have their cake and eat it too.
Exactly.
According to this episode, there is a Santa that wasn't Wilson at the end, and
it sounds a lot like
else
Wilson.
But Mark is wrong. So it's actually a really stupid detail, I would say. But I don't know. What do you think of it? Like, do you like it? Like, do you think it's like cute and funny, or do you think it's just kind of dumb?
I just don't understand why you would do it.
I would have liked it when I was 10, probably, or younger. I don't know, 8. But just watching it now, it just seems kind of silly.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said they try to have their cake and eat it too.
Mm-hmm.
But
have their cookies and milk and eat them too.
Mm-hmm.
Got 'em.
But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and the ramifications of it are similar to the ramifications of, Wilson never leaving his house. Like, what am I supposed to imply for the rest of the series with this?
Right.
But
yeah, exactly.
But we'll get the final scene here now, where the family comes outside to see Tim's decor in all of its splendor. He turns on the lights, and I mean, it looks much better than what you saw earlier, as far as like just the Santa. It looks great for 3 seconds, something like that, and then the power goes out, and we're left with just a dark I don't know, roof. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't work out for Tim, and that's unfortunate.
Darkness falls on the Taylor
dun dun dun
house and yard. It didn't work out for Tim. I hoped that it would. For the second time this episode, I think that they built up hope that Tim was going to succeed in something, and then it of course goes down the drain. So Doc Johnson wins the competition for another
presumably,
year.
Yeah.
But Doc Johnson's 76, so I mean, how many more years?
Give the old man the award.
How many more years you really got to do it? And then the final scene is just they are just showing the Taylor fire pit all decorated, and Tim is grunting jingle bells.
It's literally
which he does in the first Tool Time scene.
It's the same exact audio, just over a different picture.
Right.
So,
and that's the episode.
Yeah, that is it. That is episode 12. Yule Better Watch Out. So let's talk a little bit in generalized terms about how we felt about the episode overall. I'll let you take it away.
You will, huh? All right.
Yeah,
well, I like this episode. I think it's a nice.
You think?
No, I like it. Period. I think it's a nice Christmas themed episode. I know I like it. It's funny. There's multiple storylines going on. I like the stuff with Brad and Randy in the Christmas play, and Jill getting a little too into that. I like Wilson showing up as Santa Claus. I don't necessarily think I'm real fond of what follows and sort of the implications of that, but I like that as like a scene and an idea, and like him kind of coming over to their house and sort of cheering up Mark or ensuring Mark that Santa does exist. I think Tim and Jill get along in this episode well, and the dialogue is quite sharp, and the jokes are good, and it's a well executed Christmas episode. Everybody's kind of got their own thing going on, and everything is interesting to a degree. I didn't necessarily like. I mean, I guess like I've said this enough, but I don't necessarily I don't like the ending where it's implied that there's a real Santa Claus. I don't think the stuff with Tim and Jill feeling as though they are like betraying Mark by not telling him that Santa Claus is not real really makes a whole lot of sense. But maybe that's how some people feel.
Maybe that's a parent thing, and we just don't know it yet.
Yeah, maybe. And I could have used more Al, of course. We've been getting more Al of late, so it was.
Once you get it, you want it all the time.
Yeah. It's yes. I'll just say that. I agree. I was gonna make a lousy lousy analogy, but I'll stop myself. But yeah, always good to have more Al. But this is a good episode, a good Christmas episode. And I know that there are many more good ones to follow. So, yeah. What about you, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned at the start of the episode that it did put me in a little bit of a Christmas spirit, even though it's August. So that's a good sign for the effectiveness of the episode. I agree. I think, it had 3 different storylines, and I thought they were all reasonably good and interesting. The pageant was funny. The decorations had its moments, and the Santa thing is compelling enough. Everyone was very involved in the episode, except for Al, I would say, and that's a good thing. I mean, Al is even featured a little bit at the start. So
a little bit, yep.
I can't let go. Why would there be firefighters to come help him with that? I just don't understand that. And there were just a couple of little things that really didn't make a whole ton of sense.
Yeah, they took a couple of jokes too far. Like you could tell they were really going for laughs in certain places, and then it didn't always land. But a good effort. Yeah,
overall a good one, and I'm glad to have seen it again. So
I'd say top third of the episodes we've seen.
Sure. It seems like we try to rank everyone after we watch it.
Yeah.
So I'm a little afraid once we start getting into like episode 5 or 6.
Once we get to the end
season
of
5 or 6.
Yeah, when we get to the end of the season, I think we'll maybe do a ranking of all of them, or like top 5.
Yeah, something like that.
I think we should rank all 24 of them one by one, and then give our
with
opinions.
Detailed analysis.
Yeah, and then
detailed analysis.
Yeah, that'll be great. So that's been Yule Better Watch Out, which IMDb trivia was helpful in telling me that that's related to the Christmas song "You Better Watch Out." So that's where it came from, in case you were wondering.
Wow, and Yule is obviously has Christmas implications. So
obviously,
yeah, very punny there. Now we don't have user reviews this time. I mean, we do, but we're not going to talk about them. So we are moving on to our new mailbag segment, or mail bug segment, as I like to say, and let's go ahead and get into that.
You've got mail.
So in this segment, we're going to be answering any questions that listeners of the podcast send to us, via our social media platforms that we'll talk about at the end. But we've got a couple this week, so we want to thank you for those and encourage. If you want to have your questions answered on the air, please reach out to us. But this first one comes from, it's an email, and the emailer wishes to remain anonymous. But here is the question. Question says, and I'm paraphrasing, with Yule Better Watch Out right around the corner, I would ask you two, Adam and Jordan, to come up with a Christmas, a list of gifts that you would give to each of the core cast members. So they want us to... They want to know what we would give the main members of the Home Improvement cast. So, Jordan, were you able to come up with sort of a list of gifts for each member?
I've got a list. Do you want to
Let's go one by one.
One by one. So, you want to start with Tim?
Yeah, you go Tim first. What would you give Tim?
I want to get Tim a sophisticated alarm system for his garage, so that his tools are protected from his wife, because she seems to take them and do very strange things, defile them, if you will.
I won't.
Puts them in the sink, does all sorts of things, and she promised not to. So I think that might be a useful thing for him to keep tabs on her.
All right, I would get Tim a copy of Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. Just the famous sort of book describing the core fundamental differences between men and women, because he so often seems to just not really understand that. And by so often, I mean every episode. And that's before the feminists got their claws into the show, as you read in the message boards.
Yeah, I just hope he would read it. I don't know if he's the reading type of guy, but I hope he will.
Audiobook then.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Perfect. That'll really speak his language. So let's go ahead and move on to Jill. What are you getting Jill this Christmas?
I mean this with all due respect, but I would get Jill some sort of employment or just a purpose outside of the house.
Ooh.
Every episode she seems to she's looking for outlets. In this episode she's upset, or not upset, but she's obsessed over the boys' costumes, and she gets way too into that. In the early episodes, you have Rondell Kittleman who's coming over to coach her up on a job interview. She seems to so desperately seek an identity outside of, her matriarchal role as mom and wife of Tim, that I would like to get her just a job or some sort of a fulfilling endeavor outside of the house.
Yeah, I think we had the same kind of idea here. I specifically said I'm going to get her a LinkedIn premium account, so she can, beef up her LinkedIn resume, go out there and find the job that she's looking for.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Yeah. So let's move on to Wilson. I have Wilson next listed.
Okay.
So, do you want to do the boys first?
Wilson's fine. Go ahead. This was the hardest one for me.
For Wilson, I want to get him the internet. I want him to get on the World Wide Web. I think he's got a lot of wisdom to share, but I also think, it would help him with getting his groceries delivered, and certain things that he refuses to go out in public to do. So I think it would just open up a whole new world for Wilson.
I agree. Yeah, this one was tough for me. I have two. I think I would get Wilson. I would set up an appointment for him to talk to like a therapist, because I think that Wilson, Wilson is always the one giving advice, but
who listens to Wilson?
Yeah, who listens to Wilson, right? We find out he doesn't leave the house. He might be Santa Claus. He's roasting chestnuts. He's making a canoe. I think he might need to talk to somebody, because I think that there's more going on there than meets the eye. And I also would get Oliver the Scarecrow, a female friend. So
great.
2 parts.
Great.
All right. So Al, this one's easy. A girlfriend.
Oh yeah, I put a membership to eHarmony.
Yeah, same thing. With the Greta post, we saw Al's kind of thirsty. So
yeah, no need to explain that one.
Right.
What are we getting for Brad, the eldest boy?
I'm getting Brad a football, because the Lions just recovered a football.
Perfect. I got him, with Jennifer Zdarsky involved and some of the weird stuff that he's done with his hair lately. I'm getting him a 6-month supply of haircuts. So that he can kind of get it styled the way he wanted, get it professionally done a little bit, because as we saw earlier, what he did with this spiky hair wasn't the greatest move, and I think he would make use of those. So let's get him some haircuts.
I'm with you. All right, so for Randy, I'm getting Jennifer Zdarsky, or someone like Jennifer Zdarsky, because he's very jealous of his brother's relationship with her, and he just seems kind of lonely. So. Maybe a Jennifer Zdarsky's younger sister, Jessica Zdarsky, or something like that.
Yeah, we kind of had a similar idea here. I'm going to make him the new Bachelor on ABC's new season. I think
that's a weird thing to say.
He's going to get a lot of attention that I think he needs from women.
Like a kid's Bachelor?
Sure, why not?
Is this like when you got really into Kid Nation?
I knew that was going to come up at some point. Very similar. No, I think any sort of attention from females will be positive for Randy at this point, because his jealousy, as you said, is just overflowing. So, all
right, I want to next episode or a few episodes from now, I want to give you a couple minutes to talk about Kid Nation and what it was and why you liked it. Because
I don't. Okay, fine.
All right, we'll think about it.
Yeah, we'll think about that. And last but not least, let's talk about Mark.
Yeah, I'm getting Mark friends and a dose of reality, because he just doesn't seem I know he's a young boy, but he doesn't understand some things that I think young boys should understand. He's putting jelly in milkshakes. He's taking his pants off. He's a little boy and he acts like a little boy, but I think that there's more to it than that. And I think he needs friends because his brothers are just so mean to him.
Yeah, lots of good points there, and I can definitely not argue with any of them, but I'm going to get him a karate class membership, like you said, just to protect himself a little bit from his brothers. And I think that would do wonders for his self-esteem as well. So
great, yeah. So I think that's all of them. Thank you.
That's a great Christmas for the Taylor family.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to see all of them kind of open those gifts up. underneath the fireplace there. So thank you, Anonymous, for that email. And we received another question via Twitter from Kig Tweets 247, and she wants to know why Jill hasn't divorced Tim yet. So Jordan, what do you think? Why hasn't Jill divorced Tim? Like, what's keeping Jill with Tim?
Well, I think we see that at the end of the day, Tim kind of redeems himself at pretty much every episode that we've seen. Whether it's, he says something stupid, he makes a big apology on Tool Time, he goes out of his way, or even like the episode Look Who's Not Talking, he is super helpful. He is doing everything he can to help her get ready for the speech, offering advice on what to say, taking care of dinner and the boys. So, he struggles a little bit, but he also has a lot of redeeming qualities, and I think that endears him to her.
I mean, it's hard to say. I think there's high highs with Tim and there's low lows, and it must be
she loves the roller coaster.
Yeah, the good experiences outweigh the bad. I mean, we see Tim be very sweet and understanding, and we can tell that he loves her and his family, even when he is insensitive, which is virtually every episode. But yeah, I think fundamentally Tim is a good father and a caring husband. He gets a little bit caught up in the macho, masculine sort of bravado. But I think he's a good guy, and I think Jill sees that. But I could also see why she would get tired of him, like airing their dirty laundry on public
TV.
Access every episode as well. So it could go both ways. So
yeah, absolutely. So, but good questions. Glad we got a couple of great mailbag questions, and excited to see where that segment goes in the future. So
yeah, and that's not to say we're completely done with user reviews. It may come back, but we're just trying something new for the time being. So let us know what you think, and reach out to us via social media. And Jordan, what are those platforms?
Yeah, so we've got the email, which obviously that was helpful for this time around, homeinpodcast@gmail.com. A reminder, our new website is thehomeinpodcast.com. You can always reach out to us there. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/homeinpodcast. You can reach out to us on Twitter as well, where Adam is very active and engaged with the Pulse and responding to people and getting everyone involved. So that's a great place to reach out, and that's at Home and Podcast. So
yeah, yep, and we are running a poll right now about greatest fear, and the options are public speaking, related to last week's episode, public speaking, missing an episode of Home and Podcast, or sharks. So you can vote for one of those three things. And last I checked, sharks and missing an episode of Home and Podcast are tied. So
well, that's good. I'm glad.
Yeah, reach out to us via that. And please rate and review us on iTunes if you haven't done so. It helps people find us. And every week we're continuing to grow and get bigger. So yeah, please help us do that.
Absolutely. So do you have a question of the week in addition to all of the other questions that we've answered, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, but I'm going to have one in just a second here. So Jordan, I guess I want to know about a Christmas gift that you really wanted and got or didn't get, or your favorite Christmas gifts, or something along those lines.
Christmas. I do remember, I think it was Christmas one year, I got this giant castle, and I think it is a popular 90s toy that I've seen some articles about lately, but it came with several battling knights, and it was very elaborate, and I loved that when I was a kid. I played with it all the time. So that was a great Christmas gift, and I'm not sure if that very special robe that I got was a Christmas gift or not, but we all know that I made good use of that. So what about you? What's your Christmas memories, Christmas moments?
I got a robe for Christmas when I was in college that I still use. So, I mean, that's a good one. Christmas memories, because of my sister's employment, we often go travel to see her. So I remember doing, I celebrated Christmas in India one year, and we didn't really get very many gifts. This was when I was 17. I don't think there was much of a gift exchange, but I just remember, it was just a very cool experience to sort of, I don't know how I say this without sounding sort of like a cliche joke, but seeing how Christmas was celebrated in other places and sort of getting into the other, her husband's family's traditions and whatnot, it was a cool experience. as far as gifts go, the rad robot was a huge disappointment. I remember, I got some pretty good boots last year or 2 years ago. Those have come in handy. I always get socks, and what's a good one? I got I got a Pete Rose autographed bat when I was real young, and I remember that exciting me quite a bit. So I'm not a huge Pete Rose fan anymore, but at a certain point, I was just really into his his betting on baseball and altering the games. Just general cheating, I think, was an appeal of mine. So that stands out as well. But I'm always an enjoyer of Christmas. I enjoy the holiday. So hot take, I know.
Yeah, so when Christmas comes around, we know what to get Adam: socks. So
socks or Pete Rose memorabilia.
Keep that in mind, guys. Yeah, we as a family, we always went down to Disney, either like right after Christmas or around that time, and that was pretty special because Disney does it pretty big around that time. So that's always one of my favorite memories as well. But
great.
Yeah, so we'd love to hear about any Christmas memories from our audience, from our fans. Feel free to reach out to us at all those different places that we've said earlier. That is episode 12. We wrap that up. Yule Better Watch Out. And next week we will be covering
Up Your Alley.
Yes, Up Your Alley. So get excited for that, everybody. We will talk to you soon and see you on the social media circuit.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Everybody, come on. Oh, that's the spirit.